So, I'll preface this by saying don't be one of these retards who goes around saying, oh, self-improvement's bad for you, working out is toxically masculine. Don't be one of those people. Okay, that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to say that the way they do self-improvement is wrong. It's inadequate. Yeah, they have some of the basic points. They're like, well, I meditate and I journal, blah, blah, blah. I'm above average. I'm doing better than the average person. But it's a bit like beating up a kid in a wheelchair. It's like, well, yeah, you beat up someone, but it's a kid in a wheelchair, so who cares? That's kind of how I feel about all these people on self-improvement. But the truth is, they're being sold a scam. And the scam, I feel like, has less to do with the creators and more to do with the people. Because the people who listen to these creators, they just don't understand that these creators are missing a lot. So this is less of an indictment over the creators, more of an indictment of the people who listen to all these creators and don't seem to question anything they say. So here's what they sell you. Here's the typical self-improvement YouTuber. Well, the way you improve your life is this. So first, you have to start a morning routine. You gotta take a cold shower in the morning. Make sure it's real cold. Your balls should be shriveling up. And then you gotta meditate. Mindfulness, focus on your breath, Do that for 5 minutes a day. And then do it for 10, 15, 20, and 30. And then journal. You gotta write things down. You gotta write all your thoughts down on pieces of paper. And they do all this crap, all this stuff like this. And the point I'm not making the point that this is bad. If you think this works for you, then that's great. But the point is, this is their shtick. This is it. Have a morning routine, meditate, journal, and you're going to make $1 million. It's not true. These are good habits. I'm not indicting these habits, but that's all they talk about, really. Because a lot of these people, they have like 50 videos, and I've seen a lot of them. They have 50 videos. I skip around a few of them, and it's basically all of this. But they repackage the same thing in different ways. It's all lukewarm, normie self-improvement. And there's very few things I hate more than lukewarm, normie self-improvement. Because like I said, it's above average, yeah. Maybe you even have a good life afterwards, but it's like beating up a kid in a wheelchair. It's not that hard. And as far as the creators go, and again, this is less of an indictment over the creators and more of an indictment of the people who listen to the creators and aren't able to think with their own heads. Omission and false information. So there's false information all the time being given out by these creators, or information that I deem to be false. Some of this is objectively false, and some of it is subjectively false. For example, working out. Very few of them actually understand anything about working out. Talk about splits that don't work for naturals. They talk about workout routines that don't work for naturals. A lot of them fall into the same trap that other people fall into. Is like, well, steroid users train like this, so I'm going to train like them. They live in a different world than you. I've talked about this before. Or what about school? The way they talk about school, a lot of them talk about school is so baffling, especially ones my age. I'm 17. And there's a specific one in my head right now. The kid that wears a mask all the time. What the hell is he wearing a mask for? He's literally wearing a sign of tyranny on his face. Anyways, a different subject there. Okay, and I've already talked about masks on this channel, and that video got striked. So, YouTube, I'm not saying anyone should not wear masks. I'm not saying that again. I learned my lesson, YouTube. I will not say that again. But you start talking about school and like, well, I do this in school, I do that in school. I mean, he's Asian, so his parents are probably harping on him to do well in school, but he doesn't really bring up and this happens with a lot of them, they don't really bring up the real point of school, the way you have to approach school. And I've talked about this before. School is merely a tool. It's a means to an end. If you are just going to school just to go to school, then you're wasting your time. Even if you're getting good grades, you're wasting your time if you don't actually have a plan at the end of it. What about, charisma? I mean, none of them talk about, well, this is how you learn how to talk, this is how you learn to present yourself, this, that, or the third. They never talk about it. I've talked about that a lot. They don't talk about it at all. And it shows for a lot of them because they have to cut their videos up. Like, well, they record for like an hour. They have an hour's worth of footage for a 10-minute video. How is that even possible? If you watch my videos, I don't edit my videos. If I make a mistake, it's in the video, and I barely make mistakes, so there's no point in editing. Then they talk about money. I mean, I guess their money advice isn't terrible. So I think of the normie self-improvement YouTuber. Do they talk about dropshipping and other stuff like that? Because Dropshipping works, but it's one of those business models where it's like, well, is that really where you want to go? I mean, don't you think you could spend your time on a better business model? That's how I feel about dropshipping. I won't indict them for that. Also, this is a huge one. Being a sheep. Okay? A lot of these people are sheep. Okay? And they teach you to be like a sheep because they don't understand what's actually going on in the world. And I understand it on some level because YouTube doesn't like when you talk about this type of stuff. I got striked for talking about one of the subjects. But even if you look throughout all their platforms, they don't talk about it. They don't talk about the pandemic. YouTube, I'm not saying anything wrong. When I mention these things, I'm telling everyone to follow what the government says. The pandemic, the vaccines, the elections, CBDCs. They don't talk about any of this. They don't inform you about what's actually going on in the world. In fact, a lot of them have the dangerous mindset of like, well, politics don't matter at all, which I vehemently disagree with. You don't be a political nerd unless you want to be a president or a senator or whatever, but don't be a political nerd if you're just the average person. But you have to have an idea of what's going on in the world. Okay? Don't be a political nerd, but also don't be completely mindless because you end up walking into some trap that you wouldn't have seen, that you would have seen if you were actually informed. And the truth is, and actually, there's also massive omission. Some of what I just talked about is omission, like the charisma stuff, but there's also the omission of religion. And also the false information of religion. This is one of my key points here. My movement here is Build Back Christian Men. This is our movement, Build Back Christian Men. And part of it is religion. I know some of the people are like, oh, well, religion, it's everyone's personal belief, it's faith, blah, blah, blah. And that's partially true. However, there's a logical aspect to religion. The belief in God, the belief in Christ's resurrection. The reason why you're not a Muslim, the reason why you're not a Jew. You can present philosophical, strong, historical arguments as to whether or not these things are actually true, objectively true. Not subjectively true, not true to a single person, but true as in to everybody. A truth of the world, truth of the universe. A lot of people don't understand that. In fact, some people who are listening to me right now may think I'm crazy because I just said that. But that's the truth of the matter. And the reason why people think I'm crazy for saying that, some people think I'm crazy for saying that, is because no one talks about it. Now, when a lot of these people talk about religion, they're like, well, I'm a Muslim because I have multiple wives. I'm a Muslim because, I don't know, the people are cool. And that's it. I'm a Muslim because I like the Quran. I mean, these are all logically fallacious reasons for being a Muslim. And the same thing goes for Christianity. I mean, most Christians don't know why they're actually Christians. Right? And the reason why I make a big point out of this is because something like Pascal's wager, where if, say, you're an atheist, let's do atheist versus Christian, right? If the atheist is wrong, they go to hell for eternity. If the Christian is wrong, then they miss out on a few things, but it's not that big of a deal, is it? And that's not a point to say that, well, you should be a Christian because of that. The point is that you should learn, at the very least. Because it would be arrogant to say, well, I know Christianity is false. I know God doesn't exist, when you haven't even looked at the evidence thoroughly. More than just, Sky Daddy Flying Spaghetti Monster. And none of them talk about it. I think I'm probably the only person with this angle. And I'm going to talk more about it later when I talk about the real form of self-improvement. Now, I'm going to tell you why what I just told you is such an issue, because it's mainly because, not only because of something like Pascal's wager, but also because it doesn't work. Like this morning routine, meditation, journaling version of self-improvement that's for normies. It doesn't work. Okay, now what do I mean doesn't work for what? Right? That's the logical question that comes afterwards. Maybe you can have a nice life. I think you have a nice life while following normie self-improvement. But can you have the optimal life? I mean, imagine in your head your dream life. Think in your head, this is the life I want. What I want. Right? Think about that. Normie self-improvement probably is going to get you there unless you decided, unless you held back on your belief. Like instead of wanting that really nice car, you're like, well, a Toyota would do. But you really want the nice car, but you're just saying the Toyota, right? Normally self-improvement can get to a Toyota. Normally self-improvement isn't going to get you to these, if you want a supercar, it's not going to get you there. That's the truth of the matter, because normally self-improvement is not based on my model. And I know people are like, oh, you're so arrogant. What do you mean your model? My model. Okay, my model actually works. Is every single little aspect of it perfect? No, I'll probably change it a little bit in the future. Make little tweaks. That's how life is. But I do know it's going to get you on a far better track than all these other people. And I'll talk about my model later. But with their model, with how they talk about it, with how they present it to people, it means absolutely nothing. It's not going to get you anywhere as far as where you actually truly want to be. Okay, especially nowadays. And I'm not going to be one of these people who say, we're running out of time. You got to do it now. You got to do it now because, next year they're going to, take everything down, which is possible. I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but I'm not going to be one of those people who fearmonger. What I will say is that there's no reason to wait. Why wait? That's what I would say. I wouldn't fearmonger. I would just say, what's the point of waiting? Logical question. Boom. My claim is that there's no point in waiting. I think the evidence is quite obvious. Your claim, someone else's claim will be like, well, it's worth waiting. Burden of proof, sustain it. Anyways, I'll also realize a lot of these people are frauds. A lot of these people don't practice what they preach. Okay, and there's a bunch of examples. I'm not gonna turn this into a name-dropping video. Okay, but if you have eyes and you can open them and you can just look, you can realize a lot of these people talk about all these different things, but they don't follow them. And when I say follow them, I don't mean as in, because there's a difference between making a mistake, right? And and just not caring. Okay, there's a difference. Where is it, bro? Why is it not on my desk? My pocket New Testament is evidently not here. I don't know where it is. It's weird. All right, whatever. So I was gonna say, I feel like I shouldn't do that. Okay, pretend there's a Bible in my hand. A lot of these people, there's a difference between holding the Bible up high, proclaiming something, and then putting it down and deliberately lying. And there's a difference between that and holding up the Bible high, saying something and wanting to hold to it, but you make a mistake. That's different. And what these people do is not the latter. They do the former. They hold the Bible up high. Yeah, do this, do that. Put it down, and they lie. As Trump would put it when describing Ted Cruz. But this is what they do. Literally, this is what they do. They hold the Bible up high, and then they deliberately lie afterwards. They don't follow their own recommendations by way of just being dishonest. And this goes for a lot of people. And this also goes for how they present their information. I've already talked about this before, but look at all the nofap semen retention YouTubers. Talk about, explicit content ruined my life. You have to stop. And then in their thumbnail, they show, some lady and some suggestive photo of a woman. Now, that's just it's just hypocrisy, blatant hypocrisy. And you can see it even more. It's like, when you think about success, you follow the money, you follow the attention, you realize why they do that. Because, we're men, okay? We like titties. We see titties on a screen, it's like, ooh, click. So they're exploiting your human instincts, and they're putting you in a position to relapse because they want more views, they want more money. That's just the beacon. That's the shining example. That's a spitting image of dishonesty. Now, this does not mean self-improvement is dead. Self-improvement is far from dead, because self-improvement, I always like to articulate it in the inverse. Improving yourself. That's what self-improvement is. Improving yourself. Now, what is improving yourself? It doesn't have to be what all these speds on the internet talk about. Meditation, journaling, and you're going to make $1 million. Not like that. I sincerely recommend real self-improvement, which is the movement we have going here, which is to, I apparently hit my mouse and I stopped the recording, but the real movement we have going here, this is real self-improvement here. Build back Christian men. That's the movement we have going here. And Christian men have been tossed aside. No one really cares about us anymore because we've been pushovers. Yes, the Bible does say, we're going to be hated for our beliefs, but a lot of this is self-imposed, I believe. And the reason why I make improving yourself such a core aspect of this movement is because I feel like religion's actually the presupposition here. Because a lot of people say, well, I'm improving myself because of this. I'm improving myself because I want this, I want that. But the truth is, I think there's a lot more to it. I believe it's a divine command to improve yourself, because I believe in something called bridge theology, which I did make up. Cool name, bridge theology. And this is the way I always articulate it. The Bible tells man, the typical masculine gender role, provide, protect, this, that, and the third. But it doesn't tell you exactly how. It doesn't tell you how to make money. It doesn't tell you how to throw a jab cross. So this is where you are, and this is what the Bible says. You have to build that bridge across. And when you have this mindset of like, well, it's a divine command to improve myself, it becomes far easier to do it. And this includes stuff like working out, providing, protecting, emotional control, overall excellence, opening your eyes to the world. All these other people in self-improvement lack this anchor. They don't have this anchor. And even if they, again, like I said, a lot of them are ignorant about religion. So even if they do have this anchor, it's not really a strong anchor. Because like, well, Muslims, I like how they pray, so I'm going to be a Muslim. It's like, that's not a very strong anchor. You don't actually have a real conviction that it's true. And another core aspect of this is just thinking. Because, like I said, a lot of these people they do morning routine, meditation, journal. That's it. The problem is that this doesn't follow the correct model. This is the model that's going to get you absolutely nowhere. The model that actually get you somewhere is thinking, setting goals, then acting. Okay, you need to set your point B, because you're at point A right now, and you want to take action. It's like driving a car. Imagine driving a car with no end destination. I mean, what are you doing? You're just driving aimlessly. So when you're at point A, first you have to figure out your point B, and then you start driving to point B. It becomes far easier when you understand that, but none of them ever talk about that. And that's why I call it normie self-improvement. That's a scam. It doesn't actually work. The model I've proposed is far better. Could it use little tweaks? Probably. But it is far better than what is being proposed now by the normies in the self-improvement space. So that being said, this is one of the this is the main point of my movement. Build Back Christian Men. Check out the website, link in description. I believe that covers all the bases. See you next time.